Well, still got technical problems here, and that's not solved. All right. Um, I've taken the Zoom off here. We'll try our best. We won't be able to do the presentation today, but I don't know what's going on with all of this. Okay. Oh, this is ENG4C at the Watson Distance Education Network. I'm unable to get my Google Drive to um, work okay. I don't know what's going on. I have this beautiful presentation here called Understanding Theme in Literature, and I am unable to open it up. Never happened to me before. So, what we're going to do is just do a complete um, unit activity here. Okay, I'm on page 36, activity 4, research. Now, this is the activity that we looked through or read through and thought about yesterday. We looked at the mind mapping tool and how to mind map because that is one of the things that we do, one of um, the ways that we prepare to write an academic paper, right? It's all part of the writing process where you come up with ideas and you map them out. And at this stage, you just let everything out and then you start to edit afterwards. Okay? So, what we're going to use the mind mapping tool is explore a research topic. And we looked at that yesterday. We looked at a good example. We've also, yesterday, we looked at uh, research questions, um, questions that you will be able to ask yourself to create and help you guide your investigation of the topic. And then today we will be looking on or looking at the ending of the novel and the theme of a novel. So for the success criteria, yesterday we looked at, or you would, sorry, I'm lost for words here because I'm a bit befuddled because I'm not going to be able to show you what I wanted to today. Um, you know you will be successful when you can create a mind map, okay? So this is going to be your um, what you are going to be assessed on. So you will want to successfully complete that. And as I said, there's an example, a great example. Um, Now you can share this mind map. It says here with your peers, but if you're unable to do that, your teacher will help you out with that because new eyes will might help you come up with additional topics or subtopics. Did you think about this or that? And then we looked at the cue chart. We've used that tool several times now, or a couple times. um, and we've developed a variety of different types of questions. In this case, we are looking to develop research questions. And I have some examples of research questions I wanted to show you today. And then the post about theme with 3 specific examples from the text with page references. Okay, so we have been doing that for a bit now, citing our sources right out of our novel. So let's go back to the unit here. We looked at yesterday preparing for research, accessing resources, processing information, transferring your learning. And then, very importantly, how to define your task. And your task is included here right on page 38 with the audience purpose and format. These are important criteria in any assignment that we should fully understand before we proceed with completing that assignment. Example of a report is given following that, beginning on page 39, with a summary and the layout, breaking down the topic areas by starting off with uppercase letters, A, B, and C, and so on, and then breaking down subsections with Arabic numerals or Roman numerals. Sorry, I said Arabic, Roman numerals. Arabics are just the normal numerals that we use. And your report should look something like this example on page 41, though you'll have different topic areas. We went through that all yesterday, and then the different types of graphics that you might use in your report. You're going to need to put one in there, one of these graphics in your report. But if you're accessing PDF and web pages, there should be a lot of graphics available, especially if you took a broad or researched a broad-based topic like drug addiction or any other major social problem that exists. These are the problems that we read about in the text or whatever novel that you chose. Okay, and I'm skimming down now. Oh, there's the example of the mind map on page 46. And then the cue chart on page 48, how we break down the different types of questions, trying to create a variety of questions in the different areas here, like factual prediction, analytical questions, or synthesis and application. So today we are, let's see, asking good questions. Right, okay. Now, Unit 3, Activity 4, questions, brainstorming, is the first one that we left you with yesterday. And I thought I would review this one with having a look at some of the possible questions you may ask. Now, I didn't cover all the different social issues that could be present, but I have a couple of the main ones here. Okay, so the first one we come to is topic suicide. One question, possible question is suicide an individual right? So that's a area that people debate about a lot right now. So doctor assisted suicide didn't exist 5 years ago, and now people who are very seriously ill are allowed to, in some way or form, I'm not sure how they do it, they must have a lawyer present um, that they can tell the doctor that, you know what, I've had enough, too much pain, I want you to put me to sleep. Here's another possible topic question is how can suicide be prevented? And a number of our novels cover this area, right? Suicide. What are the causes of teen suicide? Right. So these are all questions where you can do a Google search and be able to pull up valid information. Remember, you're looking for valid information from an organization or um, a medical website. Should physicians assist terminally ill patients in suicide? Discuss suicide of a particular group: women, gay youth, indigenous youth. So this question specifies a particular group of people. So if you want to get more in depth about your research, then you may pick one of these particular groups. Discuss the links between depression and suicide. Hmm. There's probably lots of literature out there on that. I've actually found a few good articles on that myself in my research. The next section here is racism. Let's look at this first one. This is interesting. Assimilation ability and historical versus modern racism. Immigrant groups such as Irish or Italian were historically discriminated against and are accepted today. Groups without a white appearance, however, still face discrimination. Okay, so that's it. Not really a question, though, is it? It's more of a topic, but you can get questions out there or from this. See, discrimination has been around a long time. Um, Historically, a lot of immigrant groups faced discrimination. Also, um, uh, people, the First Nations people as well. The idea of ideal immigrants. What are ideal immigrants? Who are ideal immigrants? The recent resurgence of racism as a whole, especially immigrant discrimination and Islamophobia. And that's on the rise, of course. The difference and similarities between racism in Canada and in the rest of the world. So this would be more of a comparative type of research. Is Canada less racist than other countries? Well, I guess each country would be a little bit different. Is it less racist than the United States? Is it less racist than European countries. There's probably material out there on that. Different forms of racism and their varying impacts, racism as a public health crisis. That's a very strong topic area. Racism, relating racism to public health. The trauma of racism causing mental health issues. So, as these are not questions, you can easily form questions from these ideas. And here's another set of questions on drug abuse. What drugs are abused? We know about the ones that we read in the newspaper. Fentanyl, that's a big one. Cocaine, probably heroin. You don't hear much about heroin in the newspapers anymore. But I'm sure there's many heroin addicts out there still. Who abuses drugs? Wow, this is a very deep, thick question. Remember when we brought up the idea of thin and thick questions before? Thin questions being fairly easy, knowledge-based type of questions, and thick questions, which required a lot of thought, some research, of course. Who abuses drugs? What causes people to abuse drugs? How do drug abusers' actions affect themselves, their families, and their communities? And there are a lot of ideas. There can be a lot of ideas come out of just this last question. The social effects of drug abuse. I had a discussion about that just with one of my students yesterday. Think about the effects of drug abuse in your community. Do you think people are worried about someone coming in and stealing their TV so they could support their drug addiction? Do people become a little more secluded, cut off from the community? What about the families, the effect of having a drug abuser in the family? I'm sure it takes its toll to have, let's say, a young user on the parents. They want to protect their kids, but how do you protect them? Because drugs will, take control of people's lives. And of course, the community suffers greatly, right? Um, a lot of the traditional values of communities are threatened by drug abuse, right? So you can come up with your own questions about that, and these will help you. And on page 49 then is the key question you need to come up with. Use the Q chart as a tool. And we went through how to do that. And develop at least 10 research questions that you may want to explore. Try to create a variety of different types of questions from the different quadrants of the Q chart so that you can consider questions from different angles, right? So you may want some thin type of questions, statistics, for instance, or just knowledge type of questions, right? You can find those in most websites. And then you have those thicker type of questions, such as what are the causes of drug addiction, for instance, and who are the uh, people that might get addicted to drugs. And there are studies out there. Now you might already have a pretty good idea on this, but you really haven't been able to form it down into written words yet. But reading and doing your research will help you to organize everything, organize your thoughts. You know what people have learned about things like suicide or drug addiction, and they will amplify your own ideas. And that's the purpose of the research. So this is a big one. I really wanted to. uh, Key question 31 on page 51. This is what I prepared the PowerPoint presentation for, and I can't open it up. Let me try again. No, I just can't open it up. Wonder if I just quickly stop the share for a second. No. I've never had this happen before. That's really too bad. Oh, I can down. No, it won't let me do anything. I thought maybe I could download it here. This is, let's see. When we stop our share for a second, then we go back here. No, it isn't gonna. Okay, I'll go back to my share. There we go. All right. Oh, I know. Maybe I'll stop the recording. We'll try that. Pause recording. No. All right. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know. I've never seen this techno messed up thing before in my life. Totally ruins the class. Mm-hmm. Well, I might just cancel the rest of the class here because I can't teach like this, right? Okay. Key question 31: novel analysis, reflecting on the theme. This is what we got right here in a blog post of approximately. Oh, sorry, it's not a blog post. Just write 500 words. Now that you finished your novel, reflect on the way the novel ended. Was it satisfying for you? Why or why not? Did it leave any issues unresolved? How would you have changed the ending? Additionally, identify and explain the theme of the novel. You may also think of it as the overall message. This is not the same thing as the topic of the novel. For example, love may be a focus in your novel, but the theme might be something like love, if taken to extremes, can have negative effects rather than positive consequences. What idea or ideas do you think the author is trying to explore in this novel? State the theme in a complete sentence and find at least three specific examples, right? We've done this in all of our literature novel questions. So, find at least three specific examples that show how the theme develops in your novel In other words, find places in the novel where the theme appears. What new information does the author include? Include page numbers for the references. Now, I am what is this? Why did this come up? Okay, we'll try it once more here. This class is just going to look ugly. Okay, let's try this again. I don't know what was up there. Okay, well, that's it. That's the rest of the class. That's what I have planned. Have a great evening, everyone. I'm actually going to have to record this class again when it gets straightened out. Okay, sign out. ELCONT. See what happens if I sign out and then back in again. Okay, let's see if we can open up Google. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, well, at least we're going to I can finish up this class with my PowerPoint. For some reason, I don't know why, I had to sign out of here and back in again. So we'll actually have two sections here.
Recording in progress.
Okay, share. All right. Okay, everybody. Here we go. All right, there's my PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, theme, there's something that you may not be familiar with, the term, and it does get a bit confusing. And I'm going to play the presenter view. Okay, so what is a theme? A theme is a universal idea, lesson, or message explored in a work of literature. Themes express broader truth about human experience. So I don't know if you're familiar with the book, very famous book called The Grapes of Wrath. The theme for that is the inhumanity of capitalism. This is when people during the Great Depression were forced to hit the rails, and the only way they could survive was moving around and looking for jobs. Uh, um, but also, it also had, or one of the themes in it was the importance of family and friendship. Okay, and then key details about theme. All literature contains themes. A work can have multiple themes. Themes are divided into thematic concepts, which are just simple words like love, revenge, or thematic statements. And this is where we get the longer version, almost in sentence form, like love cannot be bought. Themes are usually implied, not directly stated. Themes exist on an abstract level beyond the plot. Writers may or may not be aware of the themes when they're writing. Sometimes the theme comes out from when people read the book that the writer is ends up being surprised by. Each reader may interpret themes differently, and that's one of the great things about literature. Everyone gets something different from it. Use symbols, motifs, and patterns to find themes. We're going to look at what we mean by that. So a symbol is something that represents something else, right? So a rose represents, well, it represents many different things, right? A red rose, for instance, like a rose. Um, on Valentine's Day, it represents love for your partner or whoever, but it can also represent the prickly thorn and blood, blood being red. Motif is a recurring element or idea. Now, this weird word here, obviously German, Liedwort still, repeated phrases or words that emphasize themes. Have you seen um, Apocalypse Now, right? And the horror is repeated in that particular story, and this directly connects with the whole idea of the theme of the horror of war. So, an example in Romeo and Juliet, we have dark versus light motif, which explores the contradiction of love. So, let's take a look at thematic concepts versus statements. So, here is love, right? That's a thematic concept, but here's a statement: love cannot be bought. How about revenge? That's a thematic concept. Revenge doesn't solve problems. Or forgiveness. Forgiveness is part of adulthood. A statement is more powerful than just a concept or a topic. Some people call them topics: love, revenge, forgiveness. But the thematic statement gives us tells us something about life. What the writer um, what the writer is given to us in the novel or poem. Themes convey the deeper meaning of a work. They are part of why we read literature. Writers' choices often reflect the themes they want to explore. Readers bring personal meanings to themes. So, how do we identify thematic statements? We ask these questions. What is the plot? So, what happens in the story, basically, is the plot. Who is the protagonist, right? So, who is often the narrator, right? Who is the main character in the story? What symbols and motifs are prominent? Okay, so these will often um, be identifiers of some big concept or idea that the theme revolves around in the novel. These help to develop a meaningful interpretation of a work's theme. So there's a very famous poem called The Road Not Taken. And what we'll do here, The Road Not Taken, okay, it's a poem by Robert Frost. Let's just quickly look at it. Okay, 2 words. I'm going to read through it and then we'll continue on and discuss the theme of the poem. 2 worlds diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though, as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, and yet how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 worlds diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Okay, so what's the theme of this little poem? The illusion of free will. The speaker makes a choice between 2 paths. He later justifies the choice as meaningful. The poem critiques how people romanticize past decisions. The motif here is life is as a journey. Now, one of the short stories that we read earlier, I Am the Doorway, we are going to look at first the plot summary. Arthur returns from space with alien eyes on his hands. The aliens control his body to kill a boy. He shows his friend Richard the eyes. A lightning strike kills Richard. Arthur burns his hands, but the eyes return on his chest. The main characters are Arthur, the ex-astronaut infected by an alien presence, Richard, Arthur's friend and confidant, and the boy, the victim of Arthur's alien-controlled actions. The conflict and climax of the story, so part of the plot, Arthur battles for control of his body. The climax is the lightning strikes Richard after Arthur shows him the alien eyes. And the resolution, Arthur burns his hands to destroy the ice, but only temporarily. Here are the themes for I Am the Doorway. Take action before it's too late. Some things are better kept secret. Always take caution. And then following that is the thematic evidence. So this is the actual quotes from the text. And this is what you're going to need to do once you figure out what the theme of your novel is. So I'm not going to read through all these, but these are just, I want to show you, these are quotes from the short story, I Am the Doorway, right? Here's the thematic evidence for the secrets theme, and, and the thematic evidence for the caution theme. And these are all quotations, right? Literary devices, imagery, symbolism, protagonist versus antagonist, so all these story elements. Theme is essential in understanding literature. Use plot, characters, symbols, and motifs to identify themes. I Am the Doorway explores control, secrecy, and consequences of inaction through powerful symbolism and the narrative structure. All right, so sorry for the big. Now we probably got two or three videos for tonight's class. I think I'll have to maybe do it over again someday. Uh, Sorry about that. It was just the weirdest thing that ever happened as far as not being able to access Google like that. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will be back on Monday at the same time. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.